Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. Welcome to the January 23rd edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And the reason I'm smiling big is because we reached a major milestone tonight. We will be interviewing our 600th guest, who will be the first guest on the show tonight. And this is not the 600th interview. This is the 600th individual guest. And we are very excited about reaching this milestone. When we first started this show in July of 2020, we had no idea we would get to this point. We didn't really know where everything was going to go, but we knew we were committed to bringing you the very best in African American literature. And we hope you will agree that we've kept that promise to you all. So Rhonda, just give me a couple of words about how you feel about reaching this milestone, and then we'll bring on our first guest.
I think it's awesome. I can't believe how fast we've gotten to 600 guests, and it's not that it's not. I guess it's not that it's fast. It's just that time flies. I mean, I remember when we first started this show, it was birthed because of COVID. And we have supported so many authors. I've met so many great people just through this platform alone. And I'm proud to be a part of this. And I'm proud of you, Gwen, for sticking this out. I mean, every single Tuesday, very seldom do we miss a Tuesday. And I think that's amazing.
Well, when I'm committed to something, I'm committed. And I don't make a lot of commitments. So I don't have a lot on my plate. I have a few things that I'm committed to that I do. And when I do them, I give it my all. So, and I couldn't have done it all these years and guests without you as my able, what I want to say, over the top in a good way. Now, I don't know what's going on with my green screen that's flashing, but I don't care. But I couldn't have done it without Rhonda. And it's a great team effort.
It is. I enjoy it.
Yeah. So we're bringing on our first guest tonight, and this is a multi-published author, and she's also part of Black Odyssey Media's roster of authors that, and her book actually doesn't come out till next month because it was originally scheduled for this week, and we had her book tonight because it was originally the release date, but it got moved to February. But we said we would go ahead and do the interview anyway. And B-Love, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on being our 600th guest.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
B-Love, you're just a part of all types of milestones because I think Black Odyssey Media just hit a milestone as well, and then you're a part of that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Entice, who's over the operation, is just awesome. So, and all of her authors are as well. So,
Yeah.
Love, you have a lot that you've accomplished, and we want to dig right into it. You do have a new book coming out next month called The Loyal Wife. But before we get into that book, we want to talk just about your writing career and all of what you've done and publishing people, publishing other authors.
Okay.
So when did you get started?
I started officially in 2015 under Ambiance Books, but I've been writing since I was 12. Officially and professionally, though, since 2015.
Well, that's a short period of time. That's only 9 years.
It is.
I feel like 12 years old is a really defining moment for a lot of writers, because almost everybody I meet, including myself, when we ask them, when did you start writing? 12 is always that magic age. What do you think it was? What was it about 12 years old that that made you say, you know, I want to write books. I want to do my own writing and tell my own stories?
For me, I think it was that transition from middle school to high school. It actually started, I hate telling this story, but it actually started with music, with raps and poetry. And it was kind of like a rebellion phase. And then when I got out of that, I shifted into books. But it was really just going from a child to preteen to adulthood. It was music, then poetry, then books. So just life.
Yeah, those teen years, well, 12, and then the teen years are very impactful for
Yes.
people.
Absolutely.
A whole lot happens in that span of time. And
Absolutely.
it can be positive, negative, even the negative can be teachable.
Absolutely.
You know, even the bad things, the mistakes we make, we learn from them, hopefully, and don't continue to repeat them. But a lot of people start writing as children or young, and then they keep at it. So then, and let's fast forward to 2015.
Okay.
And so what made you have a breakthrough in 2015?
Well, one of those bad things that you mentioned, it was actually a horrible breakup. And I wanted to express it in a creative way, but I also wanted to get the ending that I felt we both deserved. I'm not going to go into how I got him back, but a
Oh, you
very
got it back
bad.
though.
Yes,
Got
yes,
him
I got
back,
him back.
got
I
him
got him
back,
back.
or got back at him? That's two different things.
What got back at him? You're
Okay.
right.
Oh,
You're
okay.
right.
I'm about to say, you said got him back, so I thought you got him back.
Yeah.
Oh no. Got back at him. Got back at him.
Okay.
That relationship ending, I needed an escape. I needed something I could control, something that I could turn out the way I wanted it to. And I actually had a friend to come to me to buy one of my poetry books. And she was telling me about her publishing process with an independent publisher, because I was unaware of like the ebook world. I was a traditional girly, paperbacks, bookstores, all of that. And she was telling me, yeah, I signed to this independent publisher. You should give it a shot. So I put all my little heartbroken words into that book and submitted it with no expectations, and they accepted it.
Well, if it's based on your personal experience, I'm sure it was filled with emotion, and
Absolutely.
that's what grabs readers.
Absolutely. That's true. To this day, when people comment on that book, it's not embarrassing, but because I know all of me that I put in it, I kind of just be like, oh, you guys, you really like that? It's so hard for me to read that book now, but it was the start of this beautiful career in life that I have now. So I'm grateful for it.
So what
I
was the
think
name of that
you
book?
were honest. You were honest, and you kind of
Yeah.
stripped down
I
and
did.
real with it. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. They want to feel like they know the author, and you probably gave them that.
Yeah.
Now, what was the name of that first book? The one
It
that
was Kaylani and Bishop, and then the subtitle was A Case of the Exes. So it was just a lot of crazy drama with exes going on in that book.
Oh, okay, so it was the names of the two characters.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and of course, those weren't your name. It wasn't your name and your
Oh no,
ex's.
I was too scared to do
You
that.
you
Yes.
to change the names to protect the innocent or the guilty.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
So then, okay, so after that book, now you had indicated that you have played a part in, is it 175 titles?
That's
Yes.
awesome.
For mine, yes, not including my authors. Yes.
Okay, since 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
How were you able to, what, some of those novellas or short stories or?
The bulk of them were full length, over 45K, but a lot of them were also some 20 to 30K novellas. But I've been doing it full time since I started. So I write 8 hours a day. So it's fairly easy for me to knock a book out in a couple of weeks.
Well, that's admirable.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it seems like if you're able to do this in a couple of weeks, when you're in it, you're in it. So how do you block out the rest of the world so you can concentrate on getting this book done?
It kind of is a situation. Well, now I have a partner who takes care of things when I'm writing. But before I had that, it was like a shut down everything kind of thing. When I'm working on a book, I don't care about how I look, how I feel. If I'm eating, I'll eat tuna all day and noodles. I don't care. My phone is on do not disturb. It doesn't matter. But now with him, he takes care of the house and making sure I'm eating healthy and all of that kind of stuff when I'm in that mode. But whatever I have to do to get it done, I just do because I'm in my zone.
I'm smiling because I hardly ever leave the house anymore. I mean, I still work full time, but I also have editing, I have writing that I need to do. So it will be all over the place. And
Yeah.
I'll just be walking around in sweats and leggings and shorts. And my mom was like, you should get your hair done. I'm like, why? I'm
It
not
doesn't
going
matter.
to.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I'm the same way.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm here with you on that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's either this, something like this that I don't have to do anything to, or it's
Yeah.
under a scarf or a bonnet because it's just not a priority when I get in that writing zone.
Exactly.
Okay, so is this Monday through Friday, basically? Do you try to keep your weekends free?
Well, it's Monday through Friday this year, but I can admit in the past, my workplace schedule was non-existent. So if I was writing a book, it's Monday to Sunday from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. It wasn't healthy. I can admit that, but it was when I get locked in with my characters, I don't want to talk to nobody else. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to give them their voice. But for now, I'm trying to stick to a normal 9 to 5-ish type of thing with my writing. So it's Monday to Friday.
Okay, so are you in a particular genre?
Oh, I'm all over the place.
Okay, so you across genres. So what romance is one?
Yes, I do contemporary romance, I do urban romance, and now I'm shifting into thriller romance.
Ooh,
Okay.
romance. Ooh, do tell.
Yes, that's actually what is the traditional book coming out next month. And it's standard thriller, but I am such a hopeless romantic to the point where even the bad guys got to get a good girl. So I always like to throw a love story in there somehow, regardless of the genre. But it's your typical thriller, just with a very good love story.
I like it.
Wow. So then let's fast forward again. When did you start the publishing arm and taking on other authors to publish their books?
I believe I started officially January 2018, but I want to say I started getting my authors late 2017, I believe. I think our first book came out like January 8th of 2018. I started with maybe 3 to 5 of them, and now I have like 33, 34. So we've grown a lot.
Okay, so since you have your own publishing arm, do your books say Be Love Presents for the authors that you have under your wing?
They do. Their Say Be Love Presents, and then I typically like to put it on their title, not their name. I want their name to stand on its own. But usually at the top or by their title, it will say Be Love Presents.
Okay, and are those books romances, urban romance, thriller romances? What are those books?
They do all of it. We got some fantasy, paranormal, thriller romance, urban romance, women's fiction. They do it all.
Okay, that's
But you don't have a limit. As long as the author is writing well and they're putting their full effort into it, you don't mind publishing whatever? Or is it going to be all fiction? Or are you doing nonfiction as well?
We've tried nonfiction in the past. and we've tried poetry. Those two things, I don't feel like I really had the best market for. So as long as I feel like it's something that I can push to our readers, I'm definitely down to publish it. But if I feel like it's not gonna be something that I can sell well because we don't have the readers for it, then I'll have to pass on it. But we've got a very large scale as far as what we can do with genres. Thankfully, I'm so grateful because they love being experimental, which I love too. So
So
like
are
that.
most of the books ebooks, or are they also in paper, trade size, or is it
we do
mostly
ebooks.
ebook?
We do mostly ebooks. I like for my authors to have their own paperback rights. So however they get it with their paperbacks, that's on them. But for the most part, we do ebooks. Some of them are venturing off into paperbacks with Amazon. They're trying to do some distribution through Ingram, but it's really just however they want to do it because I let them keep their paperback rights.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you do the ebook. So ebooks are because there's no printing involved,
Mm-hmm.
then that makes kind of explain the whole ebook world in terms of being a publisher and a writer that focuses primarily on ebooks, and how that's you've been able to kind of change the landscape and be able to, it allows you really to write more, to publish more books.
Exactly. With digital distribution, we don't have, well, first of all, we don't have as many, and this is a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are, but we don't have as many rules and regulations. So they are allowed to publish the lengths they want, the genre they want, whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want. It's an easier and quicker process. That's why we're able to do anywhere from 8 to 20 books a month, and everyone is able to get the same amount of promo. Everybody's edits are good, proofreads are good, uploading, formatting, everything is good. The biggest thing with me versus a traditional company that specializes in paperbacks is the ease and the quickness of the process. So we're more creative. We have more freedom when it comes down to our ebooks, but the quality is still there because of the team that I have working with me, thankfully.
I was just about to ask, you have to have a great team behind you to be able to accomplish all of that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
that's not easy at all. So how did you come about finding the team that you have now and putting that together?
Trial and error, just being honest. When I first started, I didn't know nearly as much as I know now. Now I'm in a position to where if I don't have someone to do the edits or the proofread or to format, I could do it myself. But in the beginning, I was very green, and it just took a lot of recommendations, networking, trial and error to find the right people. But it's easier the bigger your team is. So there was a point where I was trying to do everything myself, but now I have the editors, the proofreaders, the manuscript coaches. Everybody got a part to play in this whole process in order for it to be running as smoothly as it has been for this long. But just a whole lot of trial and error.
That's wonderful.
Well, that's, any project, anything you
Mhm.
do, it depends on your team. You have to
Absolutely.
have a team that's professional and skilled and dependable
Yeah.
and,
Depending on
and
is the big, because there are some people who think they can write, they think they can edit, and they want to edit other people's stuff, but the talent isn't always there. So that's the reason why I asked how you were able to bring about that team. Because I know I have hired and fired so many people over the years, or sometimes I didn't fire them, I just stopped calling and
just
telling
stop
them.
using them.
Yes.
It was a soft fire. It wasn't like
I like that. I like that. I like that. I have to use that. I like that soft fire.
just don't go back, it's
Exactly.
I like
and
that.
it happens. So,
Yeah.
with the editing, well, depending on if they're going to be copy editing or content editing, but with proofing and copy editing, that part of it, you really just need somebody who's really meticulous, just
Yes.
really particular, and catches every single little thing. I've
Yeah.
been fortunate. I found someone several years ago, and I don't even know how I found her. I can't even remember. But she's like edited the copy editing, my last 10 books. And she's just so meticulous. She catches every little thing. And I'm very particular. So when I give it to her, it's more or less where I think it should be in terms of just,
Mm.
I've already read it 3 times to try to catch things. But I tend to, one thing I miss commas. I misuse commas. That's one I still get mixed up on that sometimes. And she just catches everything. And when she's done, I can feel confident
Yeah.
in the end product. And that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Having
that's
the right editor makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
And unedited work should never be published.
I 1000% agree.
It should not see the light of day. If you don't, if you
1000%
have a
agree.
book and you don't have it edited, don't put it out there.
Yeah.
It's just don't, it's not gonna represent you well. It'll represent you, but not well. And you don't want that. So tell
right.
us
Yeah.
about how did you get, well, what made you decide to do this next book through Black Odyssey?
It was an amazing opportunity. I've always been a traditional paperback girly, and my goal was always to be in stores, but I did think it would be with contemporary romance. And my wonderful literary agent, LaShira Lee, brought me this opportunity, and I was like, who wants to work with me? There was no way. I believed it was real until I actually talked to Entice on the phone. And she was hyping me up with this vision that she had for Black authors, specifically Black authors doing thriller. And when she presented her vision, I couldn't pass it up. I had done maybe like 1 or 2 test novellas to try the market with thriller as ebooks, and I was a little leery, but her vision, I couldn't pass up the opportunity of being a part of it. So she gave me the challenge, and I accepted.
Okay. Well, tell us about the book that's coming out, The Loyal Wife.
Okay, so
Did you have an arc? Do you have a copy of it?
I don't yet. I was hoping
Okay.
I would have it, but I don't have it yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to do this without giving too much away, because the difference between romance and thriller romance, you got to keep them secrets, honey. So I'm gonna try. But it basically revolves around Dante, who is the main male character, and he ends up having this horrible near fatal car accident. Wakes up with amnesia, no idea of who he is or where he is, and his wife comes to claim him and his possessions. As the title suggests, she is a very loyal wife, and she's trying to do everything that she can to make his return to normality peaceful. But Dante has a lot of questions about their past and his surroundings, his environment, and things like that. And a lot of secrets begin to unfold and make him question not just, is she loyal? Is she his wife? Is she to be trusted? And who is he? So it's a lot of mystery and questions and plot twists that will have readers on edge.
I like it. I could just see it
Thank
now.
you.
All the things that he probably just accepted when he was in his normal mind.
Exactly.
And when he's in a different mind, he's like, wait a minute.
Heavy paranoia. Heavy paranoia. Mm-hmm.
Like
So
it.
the little bits and pieces come back to him, like to see how flashes.
Exactly. And
Okay.
sometimes those flashes, they don't, I'm going to say this, they don't match up with where he is. They match up with who he's with, but not where he is. So that's why, even though he knows she's his wife and he knows she's to be trusted, he also knows she holding some secrets back, and he's trying to figure out why. He doesn't know if she's protecting him from something or if he's just really losing his mind. So it's good, if I would say so myself.
Okay, we'll go ahead. I like
Now I have a question,
Thank you.
just about how do you come up with all the different stories, the different characters and the different storylines, and how do you keep it fresh?
Um, The first thing is the ideas are going to come from like people watching a TV title, a song, anything like that. But it's honestly from my head. My grandmother would always tell us, "You're not crazy if you don't talk back to yourself." So
Yeah, as
what
long
I
as you
would
don't answer yourself, you're not crazy.
yes. So what I would always do is just see stories in my head, but try not to respond to them. So what I often do is just talk to somebody like I'm telling them something that's happening in my life, so I won't feel crazy. And as I'm talking to them, that story unfolds. But the inspiration can come from literally anything. It could be a man dropping his coffee on a bus, and that scene turns into a whole book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That takes a
Are
really
you an ear
creative
hustler?
mind.
I'm an ear hustler. And not that I don't care about this. I just like to hear the dynamics of a conversation. And I like
Exactly.
to hear what motivates the person to say what they said. So I
Mhm.
hustle in that way. But I'm not telling everybody's business. I don't care about your business. I just want to hear the
Yeah.
dynamics of the conversation. Do you do that?
Yeah. I do, but also even with that, what I like to do is not hear the words and just watch the face. Because if
Yes.
I just watch the face, then I can put my own little spin on it and be like, why is she looking at him like that? What is going on with them? So I do both. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know,
I've done that
when I write novels, there are people in my books that are people, but
Mm,
it's not it's not exactly the person. But
yeah.
you know, truth is stranger than fiction, I always say, and that's the same. Someone asked, Ethel Easter asked, are any of your books in audio format?
They are. We have quite a few ongoing series that are available as audiobooks. So the Black Mayhem Mafia saga is available. The first book of that is called In His Possession. And then we have the Mr. series, which is probably my most popular contemporary romance. That first book is Mr. Librarian. It's available as well. But it's a lot. She could just look up Be Love and it's going to be a lot to pop up.
Okay, now, my final question is Be Love your real name?
Kind of. Yes. It is. It is. The joke is I don't like my first name. I'm named after my aunt because she told my mama she was pregnant with me. So my mama gave her the honor of me being her namesake. And I
Okay.
don't like it because it's such an old name. So I use B, my first initial, and Love, which is my actual last name.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
You'll appreciate that old sounding name later on.
That's what they
yeah,
say. That's what
because all
they say.
names are coming back.
They
Yeah.
are.
All names are coming back. Not all of them.
That's true.
Like
Just like
Maud. I don't
old
think
school
Maud's gonna
hairstylists
come
are
back.
coming back.
Not
What
mine.
did you say, Rhonda?
I said, just like old school hairstylists are coming back. You know,
Yeah.
the ones who actually wash your hair when you go to the beauty shop, they're coming
Yes,
back.
ma'am. Mm-hmm. Thank
What
God.
did the other ones do?
You know, they don't wash your hair anymore, right? They charge you extra.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean it's not included?
Right.
Oh, okay. I don't go to those.
Yeah, I don't go to
I
those
want the full treatment.
either. Look, if I
Oh,
have to wash my hair, dry my hair, straighten my hair, and then go to you, I don't need you.
Just do it yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
And did they lower their prices? Probably not.
Mm-mm.
So somebody was coming up with some different names that are probably not coming back. I had said Maud, but I don't know if you heard that, Rhonda. But you know, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother was named Maud, Maude. But
Ethel,
somebody else said
Ethel Easter said Ethel's
Ethel,
not coming back.
yeah, Ethel, Gladys Knight, but she might be, but she's like 85 years old. And
Earl. I meant to post this earlier, but the name Earl, that's a black name and it's an old black name. I don't think I've ever met a white person named Earl.
I don't think I have either.
I don't think I've met a young person named Earl. Unless
well,
they're
I think the white version of it is Merle.
Wow, I never would have thought of that.
That's a good one, Gwen.
Anyway, Beloved, thank you so much for being our 600th guest
Thank
on
you for
Black Authors Matter TV.
And
And
we did put the
congratulations.
link in the chat. So I hope everybody will go to the link and pre-order this book. And because it's still available for pre-order, correct?
yes.
Okay, let's pre-order this book. Let's take this book all the way to the bestseller list.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you
And
guys
we'll
so
see
much.
why.
Hi, thank you.
All right, have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
So that was Beloved, our 600th guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And as I said at the top of the show, it's not the 600th interview, it's the 600th individual guests that we've had. Not all of them have been authors. And to that point, our next two guests are book club facilitators. We've had them on the show periodically, different book clubs, and we haven't had a book club in a few months, several months since we had one. So tonight we have two book club facilitators on the show, and the importance of book clubs is they generate amazing word of mouth for books, and they represent multiple book sales. So when you're an author and you have a book club, select your book, then you're going to get multiple sales. Some might be paper, some might be ebooks or audiobooks if your book is available in that format. So they really represent an amazing part of the grassroots aspect of African American literature. So we're bringing on our first book club facilitator for tonight. Her name is Jackie Handy, and her book club is called the Mommy Network Book Club, and she's going to tell us how they came up with that name. And her book club is based where I am, right here in Houston, Texas. So, Jackie, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
So, the Mommy Network Book Club, how long have you all been in existence?
Okay, I'm going to give you a little backstory.
Okay.
We officially became the Mommy Network in around about 2003, so 20 years ago.
Oh.
But we were not always a book club. So the way we started out was there were a group of us who had our young babies in a daycare here in the Houston area. And we used to always go back and forth to each one of the other kids' birthday parties, and we would kind of socialize at the birthday parties or whatever, but we didn't ever socialize as a group of ladies. So one day we decided, why don't we do something for ourselves? And we decided to start planning activities for us. And, it started out as doing dinners and, fun things. And then it kind of grew into social outings and other type of activities like doing donations during the holidays and other type of activities where we would do outreach and things of that nature. And then as we continued to do those type of things, it became closer as a group. We decided to start reading books. So the actual book club became official around 2010. So we kind of just hung out as a group and supported each other. With the kids, of course, you're always going to have issues, ups and downs, and you needed people to bounce things off of. So we kind of took that opportunity to become friends and confidants and things of that nature before we actually started reading books.
Okay.
And
So you know,
you go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Rhonda.
No, I was just wondering, so when was that moment when you said, let's start reading books? And then what types of books did you choose? Did you choose maybe children's books first and then, or parental books, and then move from there?
I guess I can't remember the exact aha moment where we said, wow, we want to be a book club. But I know I've always been a reader, and I just have always enjoyed books and just always, had something in my hands that I was reading. So I think it was just kind of organic that we said, why don't we start, reading books and meeting on a more regular basis? Because before we were probably meeting once a quarter, doing activities or what have you. But then once we decided to become a book club, we knew we would have to set a schedule and kind of make it more consistent and more organized. So we just kind of grew organically. But then in terms of the type of books we would read, each person that was a member of the club got to pick a book. You would host it, host that particular book review, and you would select whatever book you liked. So we would read everything from, well, I'll tell you, our very first book was The Shack. If you guys remember that book, that was our very first book. So it's,
I
a
didn't read it, but I
fictional,
remember.
yeah, a fictional
What is
book.
about end times or something?
Sort of, yeah. It was biblically
Okay.
based. It
Okay.
had some, biblical basis to it. But we've read everything from mysteries to historical fiction, biographies, memoirs. So whatever the person who's in charge of that particular session gets to pick what they like to read. Personally, I like historical fiction, so I'll pick a lot of those types of books. But we had a wide variety of books that we would read.
That's Gwen's genre right there.
That's my main genre. It is.
Mhm.
Although I'll read any book that's good, that's well written, has good character development, and grabs me. But
Mhm.
fiction is what I like. But historical is my favorite. But I like mysteries as well. And
Mhm.
just regular fiction. If it's well written, it has to make sense, and it has to be believable. I like believable characters and a believable plot. I don't
Well,
read
I feel like I can
fantasy.
identify with the characters in
Yeah,
some.
yes. It's not too far-fetched. Some stuff. Now, there are some people who can write far-fetched and do a good job.
Yeah, I've read some that were kind of out of my norm, and I really enjoyed it. It surprised me that I enjoyed it as much as I did. So I do like to kind of branch out and read things that I wouldn't pick. I'm in a couple of other book clubs as well, and one of them in particular really stretches me. They pick things and it's a virtual book club, so we never really meet in person, but we do a blog and that type of thing. But they will pick books that I would have never even dreamed of reading. And it kind of, excites me sometimes. The most recent one that I read with that book club is called The Lost City of the Monkey God. Never heard of it. Had no idea what it was all about. And it was about this researcher who they were exploring Honduras. And so it kind of went into that whole thing about, discovering these undiscoverable places and trying to find treasures that were lost from like centuries ago. But it was good. It surprised me that I enjoyed it.
Hmm. So,
Hmm.
how many people are in your club? On average.
Currently, we have 5. We've been as large as 12, and now we're at 5, but they're 5 strong, steady, solid people.
The people that you can depend on to read the book.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I wanted to go back to what you just said when you said that sometimes your members pick something that you would have never dreamed of. Was there ever a book, and maybe it was the one that you just named, but was there ever a book where you're like, I don't want to read, why did they choose that? I'm not reading that. And then you went ahead and read it and it wound up surprising you.
Well, me personally, I'll read almost anything. So I don't really try to judge the books or prejudge the books before I get into them. But now there's some that I've started and I was like, I'm not sure about this. And there was one in particular, and I'm not gonna name it, that I don't think anybody in the book club, I know nobody in the book club finished it. We started it and we just could not get through
I hope
that.
it wasn't one of my books.
No, ma'am, no.
We've
but
done that
but
too. Our book club has done that too, where nobody finished. Uh, you know, and it's funny. A lot of times when that happens, everybody kind of stops at the same point.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Stop reading around the same point, and they get to, and then it's like no. I'm out of here.
Now,
Yeah.
a lot of people have a certain point where if it doesn't pick up by the time I get to this point, I'm going to stop reading. I think for me, I've always tried to push through a book, even if I didn't like it, because I'm really hoping that by the time I get to the end, it will all come together and be really good. So I'm one of those people, I guess maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. I'll keep reading. But there are some people who say if it doesn't pick up by, let's say, the 50th page, they're going to stop reading it.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like you. I will push through. I'm just like, man, I said I was going to do this, and I'm just going to push through and make it happen. Except for that one book. It's only been one that I could not make it through.
And I'm one of those people. 50, I'll give you 50 pages. You got to make me interested in what you're writing by about page 50. It needs to be going somewhere, making sense, have some characters I care about, you know, and not just describing scenery, you know. Scenery can be a character, but there needs to be people. I've never read a book where scenery was the only character. So, but I have some other friends that will, if they start, they feel like they have to finish, and they'll plow on through and try to, you know, hang on. I'm like, what? Life's too short. I don't waste my time reading something that's not. I got a to be read stack, so I can just move on to the next one. You know.
Well, I think for me, though, Gwen, too, is especially if it's something that the book club has picked. I'm in, like I said, a couple of different book clubs. If it's something that a book club that I'm in has picked, I will definitely push through. Now, if it's something I picked up on my own and it doesn't quite grab me, then maybe I'll lay it down and come back to it later. Now, I have a couple of books that I've had to lay down and come back to, lay down and come back to. But if it's something that a book club has really, you know, said they wanted to discuss, I'll try my best to make it through.
Yeah, I try, but I'll quit. I will. I was telling them, look, I tried. I couldn't make it. I couldn't get into it. Now, what do you all read any self-published authors' books?
We may have read one or two. It's not something that we kind of seek out. You know, we probably 85% of our books are by Black authors, and it's not necessarily on purpose, but that's just how it happens. You know, we didn't say we're only going to read Black authors, but about 85% of them are. Actually, I have this one book that I'm personally going to read that is a self-published book, and if I like it, I'll probably present it to the book club to have us all read it. But that's not something we have, you know, tried to seek out specifically.
So if
Barbara
person
asked,
starts, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, Barbara Crump asked, how do you get recommendations for your book club? So I guess, do people email you their books? Do you just find something that you'd be interested in reading? How do you get your recommendations?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, there's only 5 of us, so we meet every other month, and we take off the summers for the most part. So we pretty much read anywhere from 5 to 6 books a year, and so each person, you know, kind of selects their own. How I determine which ones I read, I get like the different lists from Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and you know, the New York Times. So I'll kind of just peruse those lists and recommendations from people like Gwen. Gwen and I talk about books a lot as well. So for me personally, I'll just reach out to different sources to find the books that I think I want to recommend to the group. And trust me, they do stretch far and wide. Like I said, I have kind of my lane that I stay in for the most part, but some of my other book club members, they go different directions. So it kind of makes it fun to see the variety that we get a chance to read.
That is great. So, have you, because you said you like historical fiction, are you familiar with, it's a Facebook group? Oh, it's called I think it's called the Personal Librarian Chat.
I am very familiar. One of
Okay.
my good friend is one of the leads on that in that group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a small world. I didn't know if you knew about it. They have something big coming up with Rashonda with her new book coming out.
Absolutely. I've been invited to it. I won't be able to make it, unfortunately, but yeah, she did call me and we talked about that. And I'm excited for her. I think it's going to be a great event.
It sounds like it's having some kind of mansion or
It's at the El Dorado Club downtown.
okay. Okay. And it sounds the lady who's over it, and she's been on the show. I can't
Okay.
recall her name, but she's maybe a year ago she was on telling us about
Tammy
how
Smithers? Was it
yes.
Tammy?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dancy.
that's my friend. Yeah, I know her very
Oh,
well.
okay.
Everybody,
She
your friend Jackie, you know everybody.
Not really.
Everybody we name like, oh, that's my friend. I know her. I'm like,
But yeah, Tammy and I go way back though. We really do. Before the book club, before all of this, we know each
okay.
other. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she does a really good job of making an outing out of the book. I mean, she takes the book that they select, and they only do historical fiction by Black women, written by Black women. And they do something every month. I think at least 10 books a year that they do, because they presented their 2024 list not too long ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
I don't keep up with them that closely, but I do every now and then hear about, especially events like what she's planning, you know, in the next couple of weeks. I hear about things like that as well.
yeah, I follow their page. So and just about every book that she picked, either the person has already been on the show,
Okay.
or they have a book coming out soon and they'll be on the show. So we've had almost all the authors that they focused on.
Okay.
And Rashonda will be on next month with her new book.
Exciting. That's great. That's really good.
Yeah. So if you had to give someone advice who was thinking about starting a book club, what advice would you give them?
Ooh. I tend to be a pretty organized person, I think, in my mind. So, you know, for me, it starts with kind of having some structure to it. So, you know, decide on how often you're going to meet. Decide on, you know, if you're going to let people host it, you know, themselves, and whether they're going to do it in their homes or the location type of thing. Um, you might want to even put parameters around um, how long the books are going to be. We've had some discussion about how long of a book you are comfortable reading. You know, some people don't like to read more than 350 pages, whereas other people are comfortable with 500 pages. So you might want to kind of maybe have that discussion as well. Um, I don't know if there's a whole lot of rules and regulations behind it, because, you know, a lot of times book clubs, you'll start off with a group of people and they may not all last for one reason or another. So don't be afraid to go up and go down, you know, in terms of the number of people in your club. But I just think that the main things are, you know, finding a structure around how often you're going to read, how you're going to do the reviews, whether it's going to be one person that's always leading it, or you rotate that thing, you know, where you're going to be meeting, some basic things like that. Other than that, I think, you know, in terms of the genre, I like to leave it open. I like to try different things. So I wouldn't necessarily say you have to pinpoint that as well.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you all accepting members in your
We are
club?
not at this
Closed.
time.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're not.
Oh, so you purposely want to keep it small and intimate,
Yes, yes.
which I don't see anything wrong with that, because just the way you've described your group, you want people that you can depend on to read the book, people that you know. And sometimes the dynamics of a group can change when you start to include too many people.
Exactly. And another good thing that we do, another fun thing that we do, is we started about 3-4 years ago of taking annual summer girls trips. So each summer we pick a new location to kind of go and just hang out and just have fun. And I'll just tell you, just from doing that for the past couple of years, trying to coordinate schedules and trying to pick locations and trying to make sure everybody is happy can be a challenge just with 5 people. So that's another reason we like keeping it small. So it's easier for us to really kind of make things like that work and work out well for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. We've done that, but not lately, not since COVID. And we probably need to do that again. The club that I'm in, well, I'm in 2 clubs. I'm in the Fallbrook book club. Jackie and I know each other. We're members of the same church, and we're Fallbrook, where the National Black Book Festival is held. And we're also in the choir together, but not in the same section.
And we're in the book club together too, the Fallbrook Book Club.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, I haven't been going like I should be going.
I know. I noticed your absence.
But I was there in December, and hardly anybody came. So,
yeah, it's been kind of up and down.
Yeah, but they're reading my book for February, so I'm excited about that. They're reading Exodus from Treachery. So they read the Genesis files when it was, years ago. And so they're reading that. So I'm excited about that.
And we'll be reading your book in May, because that's my month to pick a book. So we'll be happy to have you come and visit with us virtually in May.
Right. And I will say book clubs are a great way to get your, readers talking about your book, reading your book. When what I did was, of course, I have my own resources, but I just reached out to the book clubs and said, look, my book is coming out, consider it. So that's all you can do. Some of them said yes. And so, it doesn't hurt to ask. And not all of them are going to say yes, but you don't need all of them. If you get some of them, you need a few, and then the buzz from word of mouth, they'll tell, if they like the book, they'll tell their friends, and then you're off to the races from there.
Absolutely.
So, but book clubs are a great way to get your book out there. What I did was I actually sent my book to the facilitators of the club, and then with a letter asking them if they would consider reading. And then I sent a follow-up email. I'm very organized too. So that's the way I approached it. I approached it like any, as a business, because if they're going to be reading my book, that means they're either buying the book, or even if they just read it, if they have Amazon, is it Amazon Prime or Kindle Unlimited, where you can read the books and I think it's Kindle Unlimited.
I'm sorry, Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, Kindle.
Where they can read the book, and I think they can read so many books a month. I don't know. I don't have Kindle Unlimited, but it's some unlimited amount of reading you can do for an inexpensive price. So
all your books are self-published, Gwen?
All of my books are self-published.
Okay.
But what I do, I have professionals that do my cover, do my editing, formatting. I hire professionals to do those parts. And so I write the book, and then, or illustrations, like with my children's books, I hire illustrators. So I write the words, and then I hire people for the parts that need to be done to make my books look professional.
Right. Yeah.
So if you, what do you all have? Do y'all have any plans this year for a trip yet? Somewhere you all are going?
We do actually. And we decided early this year, which was great. So we already have plane tickets, already have our Airbnb picked out. So we're ready. We are going to Charleston, South Carolina this year.
Beautiful city. Beautiful city.
I've been there. It's really nice. And a lot of people go, but a nice tourist place. It's kind of slow. It's not a busy city.
There's enough to do. There's just enough to do. Lots of good restaurants. I've been once, and so another one of the book club members has been once before, but the other 3 have not. So we're all excited about it. And on top of that, there's a new museum that just opened up a few months back, I think, a Black museum in Charleston that I'm excited to go see.
Well, if you all get a chance when you're there, they have a really good bus tour that takes you places. And they have beautiful historical buildings. Like they kept some of the buildings from the 1700s, and they have the original sidewalks and things like that. They really maintain the history and the just historical flavor of the town.
I love about it. It's a beautiful city.
It is.
And you know, the history is a little,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is. But it is what it is. You know?
Exactly. It is what it is.
So, well, Jackie.
Somebody asked an interesting question. Ethel Easter asked if you've ever chosen a girls' outing based on the location of a book that you've read.
We have not for our personal girls trips, but I have done it myself. After I read The Personal Librarian, I actually had a trip to New York with my husband, and we went to visit the library. So I've done that on my own, but as a book club, we have not done that.
Oh, okay. So that was the trip to New York you told me about. You took, and was it last year?
It was maybe, might have been 2 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you had told me that you all were going to New York.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, let me see. Somebody else asked, he said he has Kindle Unlimited, and you can access up to 20 books at any given time.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah, and they give you a certain number of books that you can download. You just have to read them before you can add any other books to your collection.
Oh, okay. So it's not like an unlimited download, like,
It's not unlimited. You have a certain amount of books that you're able to download
at a given time.
You can't add any other books until you take a book off of your list.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's not bad. So let me see. Somebody asked about how do you self-publish. That's a long, that's too long to answer in this allotted time. However, one of my books is called Write It Right, How to Self-Publish Your Best Book. And it's available on Amazon. So look up Gwen Richardson and you'll see all my books. One of them is called Write It Right, WRITE, and it and RIGHT. And that book helps people who don't know how to get started and they want to know how to get started. So that's for the audience. So anyway, Jackie, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And I'll see you at church whenever we start them.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Okay, I didn't get a chance to tell people we have one book we're going to be giving away tonight, and it is Eric Gray's book called Gun. He was on the show several months ago, and he publishes under Black Odyssey. So I'm going to do the trivia question after this next interview for people who want to get the book. And also, I wanted to let people know about the National Black Book Festival registration being open for authors. People are really signing up. So if you want to be a participating author this year, I would suggest that you sign up with your deposit and to reserve your space. We also just recently launched a new line of, we're calling them lit t-shirts that focus on literature. So besides our Black Authors Matter t-shirts, we now have 3 other t-shirts that one that says Queens of Romance, it's real nice, and one is about the other 2 about male authors. So one says Men Who Wrote, and the other one says Men Who Write. The one that says Men Who Wrote, that's for authors who are deceased from the past, and Men Who Write, that's for authors who are living. And all of the t-shirts are available on cushcity.com. So if you go to cushcity.com, cushcity.com, on the homepage, authors who are deceased, like to get one. And they're available from extra small to 5XL. So for everybody, every human can get one. So
every human.
And maybe some other people. Oh, and also I forgot about our Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards. That process is now open. So if you have a children's book and you'd like to submit it and have it evaluated, you could be a finalist or an award winner in the process. And this will be our 3rd year doing that.
And speaking of children, I do also want to remind people that my 8th and 9th grade essay contest is the deadline is February 2nd. So if you have an 8th or 9th grader who is a good writer, or maybe you want to encourage that talent in them, then make sure you get them to participate in my 8th and 9th grade essay contest. A winner from each grade will receive a cash prize and will be able to read their essay live at my Black History Month Literary Weekend.
Okay, and I'll be donating again this year some of the scholarship books. So for people who want to be able to apply for scholarships and learn how to go to college debt free, then the 2024 edition of my book, I'm going to be sending you some copies of that so you can give it to them. And it'd be a couple of, do you just have, how many do you give away? How many people?
Well, last year I had a first place winner in each grade, but I also had a very strong essay that didn't quite get first place, but I gave her a second place. And since I had an older version of your book, I awarded her that book.
Okay. So I'll send you 5, and then that way that'll cover the people who get the essay award. And also, if you want to just gift it to some of the other participants.
Well, that would be wonderful. Thank you for that.
Okay, you're welcome. So our next guest, I had mentioned that we have 2 book club facilitators on the show tonight. The first one was Jackie Handy, and she's based in Houston. And then our guest now is Dondi Dancy, and she is based in California. So she is 2 hours behind me and 3 hours behind Rhonda. So what time? So there is 6 o'clock where you are, right, Dondi? Oh, you need to unmute.
I'm sorry.
That's correct. It is 6 p.m. Good evening.
Yes, and it's 9 o'clock here.
Woo!
Hey, Miss Gwen. Hi, Dr. Rhonda.
Huh?
Come on, Dr. Rhonda. You got this. You got this.
It'll be all right.
You got this. Come on, Dr. Rhonda. Hey, Miss Gwen.
I am great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you both this evening?
Wonderful. It's good to see you. I love how you're all hyped up at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's so late over there.
I've been looking forward to this all day. I told my kid, make sure you let me know it's 5:45 so I can be on time. Because I know you ladies are very prompt. Very prompt.
Gwen keeps me straight.
Mhm.
We are. Because one thing that I will not do is have this show be on any time other than just the regular time.
Okay.
I want to say it will start on time, it will end on time, it will go on time. I treat it like if you're watching television, and even like if you're watching the news or something like that, at the top when the hour is up, it'll cut them off because the show is starting at the time it's supposed to start. So I treat it the same way.
Have you ever watched an awards program and they start talking fast because somebody's counting them down? You can't see them on camera, but they're like 10, 9.
Right. Wrap it up. Yes. Because I respect the time of our viewers and the time of our guests. And so I want the show, and I want the show to be professional. We've always done this show and it's always been professional. Our guests who've been on the show will send me emails telling me that they appreciate our professionalism. And so
I do also.
We get the feedback from them. So Dondi, you represent Hush Harbor Literary Club.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're going to talk about that first. And then you're also a writer. So toward the end, we're going to talk about you as a writer as well.
Okay, thank you. But yes, I am, and I probably should. I do represent the book club. It is my book club with my big brother. So it's kind of a joint effort. We are 14 and a half years apart. So we didn't literally grow up together. I do vaguely remember him living at home. It seems like to me it was like 2 days that he lived there. But he swears it was about 4 or 5 years. I don't know. I don't remember it that way. But it was a way for us to actually bond and to kind of get to know one another beyond knowing we are siblings. We don't know one another on a true granular level like most siblings do, because he's so much older than I am. And he was already raising his family when I was a little kid in school. So I don't have like, that's my big brother. I know I can go to him if I need anything, but there's that age gap, that generation gap, and I wanted to lessen that. So the book club was my way of doing it.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard a story like that before related to a book club. And that's
Yes.
really interesting. So where'd the name Hush Harbor come from?
Well, we debated on what the name should be, and he's the older brother. And he came up with something that I was like, we're not doing that. We are simply not going to do that. And then we were talking about it, and he was doing some volunteer work with his church. And his minister overheard us talking and said, if you all start a book club, I will donate the church Zoom line. And so I said, well, we should probably have a name that kind of aligns with church without it being the church book club. And so I came up with Hush Harbor because, one, we are African American. We are members of the diaspora. And honestly, when we were enslaved, that is how we got together and communicated. We didn't have book clubs. We had a sense of church even when they did not want us to worship or have religious services. We went into the Hush Harbor, and that's where we discussed our personal business, who was going to escape, who had escaped, who we knew made it up north safely, who was pregnant 7 plantations over, who was sneaking out to go visit whomever 2 plantations over. That was our internet. And so I thought, this is going to be our internet. Let's name it Hush Harbor Book Club. And he thought, okay, I can do that. I can agree with that because it kind of aligns with church and community and disseminating information. So.
Okay, well, that's
I love the thought that you put into that name. This wasn't just something that you pulled out of the sky.
No, ma'am. No, I am very much like the two of you. You all are very time sensitive. And that tells me that you all don't do anything without actually giving it a lot of thought. There has to be a lot of pros and cons weighed out. And I have to believe that neither one of you will put your name behind anything if you're not going to give it 100% of your effort. Or if you feel upfront that this is just not going to be beneficial to me having my name on it. And I wanted to do it right. I mean, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly.
Yes.
And let's just do this right. Let's start off the right way so that we can end the right way. Absolutely. And that was my concern.
Okay, see, I was thinking Hush Harbor, you know how California has a whole lot of little nooks and crannies and towns and
lagoons
places and stuff. And so I thought it was a name of a little seaside town in California.
No. Well, I guess in my head as a writer, that could be a seaside town. Thanks for that idea. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. So you and your brother started, and you have, how many members do you have now?
We have a total of close to 300. They are located pretty much around the world. And that is because we started off, we did put a lot of thought into this. We wanted it to be cost efficient for everyone. And because the church donated the Zoom line, and my brother's church honestly has an aged population, the possibility of his members having money available to purchase books every month to participate in the book club was slim to none. So I came up with the idea, instead of doing copyright books where we would have to purchase books or they would have to be available in the library, let's read books. Let's start off with books that are copyleft. So anything where the copyright had already lapsed and was available. So the very first book we read was Our Need. So that's how we started. And because of that, we started with a book, the first book written by a Black woman in the United States. And word of mouth, it just kind of like blew up from there. And how it spread outside of the United States, honestly, I think I think I told one person that lives in Belize who told someone that lived in England, and it just took off from there. But actively right now, lately, we've had as few as 2 people to show up for meetings, or as many as 15. And I think that that has a lot to do with the pandemic being quote unquote over. Whether it's over or not, I'm not going to argue the science. I'm not a scientist, I'm a paralegal. But when people were at home and isolated, they had a lot of hobbies and activities. Now that the world has opened up, their interests have changed, and that's okay. The people that are interested, they're dedicated. So we're available for those people that are dedicated and interested. And a lot of our members they're elderly and they're shut in, but they know how to use Zoom or they know how to use email. And we are just in a period right now, the holidays have just ended, people are traveling. So at some point, people will start coming again. But until then, I don't think we need to harass people and demand that they show up. You know, they will. I have faith.
You end up a lot of times with your core group anyway. In just about every book club, you might start off with more people than you end up with, but that core group normally will stick with it for a long time. Yeah, the book club, well, the Kush City Book Club is 20, what year are we in? 23 years old. And
that's impressive.
Yeah, and then the Fallbrook Book Club, I want to say it's 10. My church's book club that I'm in, I think it's about 10 years old.
Yeah, that's impressive also. We're only 3 years old, so we're still like a little toddler book club. And we read, we read scripts sometimes. So sometimes we'll do a script and a movie, because if the movie has been released, then the script will be available publicly. So
I haven't heard of a book club reading a script before.
Well, she's in California too.
Well, that's true. We have access to a lot of them.
No, well, we have to do things to keep it interesting. So we're already struggling with keeping people Zooming in. So we have to come up with ideas, something different. And sometimes those different ideas work out really well. And other times we have very good intentions and it becomes maybe a little too much. We did the movie and the script Fruitvale Station. And that's one, to this day, I not admit it to my brother. I sincerely apologize to him. I wish that I had not selected that. Or if I had selected it, I wish that we would have broke out, like the men go into one Zoom room and the women go into another, because every man on the Zoom had an instance with the police, including my brother, something that I did not know about. And I did not feel like I was equipped as a Black woman to even help them.
It was triggering.
Yeah.
It was very triggering. And I felt guilty because maybe they were not ready to discuss that, especially with someone like, you don't have a solution. You can't help us feel better. So I just think that was great intentions, but it kind of backfired. It wasn't the outcome I had hoped it would be.
Right.
My brother said he felt it was very cathartic, and it probably was. And it probably would have been better if the women were not in the room. I think they would have discussed a lot more, and they probably would have resolved more if we were not in the room.
That's really good insight because that was a very triggering movie. I mean,
Yeah,
so I'm
well,
quite sure that the book was even more triggering because it went into so much more detail that the movie couldn't touch.
And there are other things like we always try to pull out additional information. So I actually pulled the California statute. I pulled the newspaper reports and like sent them out to people. And then it was very disturbing to learn that the gentleman that took that young man's life, first of all, that happened here in Northern California. They relocated that case down to Southern California. He was sentenced, I think, to whatever, but he only did something like 14 months.
Mm.
And everything that they brought up about that young man was supposed to have been sealed in his juvenile record.
yeah, the
And
thing about them bringing up somebody's past when they are the victim of a crime is really irrelevant because the person who's perpetrating the crime against them doesn't know their history at all. So it's not a factor in what they did. What they
exactly.
did was a spur of the moment or emotional. You were fearing for your life, whatever they normally say, but they don't know the person's history. So it's irrelevant to the situation. Now they really
Well,
bring that up to taint the jury. That's why they bring it up.
and also it's really unfortunate and it's sad to learn that had people not been on that train, the incident he had nothing to do with, for even why the police were called. He had nothing to do with that. But if people would not have pulled out their cell phones, if it were not for the millennials, that man would have gotten away with that.
Yeah.
And to think that if he was that angered by nothing, are we to believe that that was the first time it happened?
Right.
Correct.
And you are to protect and to serve.
Yeah.
In this country where in most instances you can be 18 and become a policeman.
Well, yeah, I don't think you have to have a college degree unless
You
you're
don't.
probably when you're moving up the ladder, if you're trying to be the
Right.
or detective.
But isn't that ironic that you can be 18, the most emotional period of your life,
Yes.
and they'll give you a gun, but you cannot buy a beer if you had a hard day at work, the same 18-year-old.
Same thing with the military. You can be 18 and join the military, but not old enough to drink.
Yes, that is very true. So things like that, we talk about the books, but we also talk about things like that. And that's one of the great things about the book club is that it always trends into something different. We may talk about politics. We may talk about current events. We may talk about contemporary events, which I try to keep my brother away from because he gets he is so opinionated about a lot of things he should not have an opinion on. And it is to protect him. Like, I don't want people to really know you were that goofy. Be quiet. But it is very interesting, and it's a learning experience. And I think that again, this is our form of the internet. When we didn't have the internet and we didn't have Zoom, we sat down on our stoop on the front porch and we talked to one another. And that's how we learned, and that's how we communicated information. Because there was a period in this country where a lot of people didn't have telephones, and it was not that long ago.
Right.
You know, we wrote letters.
Yeah.
We don't do that type of stuff any longer. So this is our solution. And with the majority of our members being older, and not necessarily sick or shut in, but they don't really get out a lot. I think they really enjoy it. It's a form of stimulation, mental stimulation. They get a big kick out of the extra information that I send to them. So they'll send stuff back to me, or they'll send back a suggestion like, oh, you need to check this out on PBS, you know, so, so it's become like one huge master class. And I think with COVID in all minority communities, we lost a lot with people dying from COVID, and with, especially in the Black community, we were not allowed to grieve the way we normally grieve. So there are pockets of intelligence and information that are gone that we're not going to recoup. So this is sort of our way of answering that. And it's been marginally effective. But you know, it is what it is. We're going to keep doing it because we like doing it. And I think for the most part, I have enjoyed this 3 years of getting to know my brother better. But I still need him. I still give him a hard time, y'all. I'm just that's what a little sister does.
Yep, that's your job. That's your job.
It is.
But I do think that's the most beautiful part of it, that all of this was a bridge to just connecting and reconnecting with your brother.
Yes. And I have another older brother that's older than him, that's 16 years older than me. And my sister is 18 years older than me. She lives down in Houston with Gwen, and she's also a Gwen. For whatever reason, they don't ever join or Zoom in, but they'll read the books and they'll like email us what they want us to say to people. Well, I've been saying lately, like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not doing that. Like, you can talk. I'm not doing that. You can Zoom in if just to say what you have to say and drop off the Zoom line. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. It should be a family affair.
Dondi, do you have any younger siblings, or were you?
No.
Okay.
I am the youngest.
Okay. So you were like
a change in life, baby.
Okay, all right. They weren't expecting to be able to get pregnant, and boom, there comes John.
Don't even scare me like that, because see, I'm not trying to have a change of life baby.
Well, that is to tell you that I don't buy that logic that you can't have children later, because my mother was 48 and my dad was 55, almost 56. So it can happen. It can. You might not be so happy, but it can happen.
Yeah, you probably don't have the same energy, not for
a toddler,
the entire time.
No.
But people make things work.
That's true, they do.
Now, how do you keep up with the 300 people? Do you have a page or do you have a Facebook page, or
we used to have a website, but then that just got to be too much to maintain. And over the pandemic, I was doing like a weekly newsletter, and I was sending out all kind of stuff like links to free workshops and things like that, just lots and lots of information. And if you two would like, I still have all the newsletters. I can give you all access to the drive I created. So you can have them and just look through them. It's a ton of stuff in them. But my brother doesn't help. So that all falls on me. And I had to draw the line somewhere like, okay, Curtis, like, you can't pick a book, you can't keep a note, you can't do anything. And he'll say what he always says, but you do such a good job. So now it is email. I will send out an email. This is the book we are reading. This is the date. This is the time. This is the Zoom link. You all are adults. I'm going to trust that you can do this. And then lately I've been, because I'm using Google Mail, I've been putting stuff on my calendar and then pinging people on their calendar. So if they are going to come, they can say, yes, they're coming, or no, they're not. But it gets to be a lot to try to keep up with people. And I was good with trying to keep up with people and constantly disseminating information until people got the post-COVID, attitude of, I may or may not come. I'm going to miss 7 months in a row. I'm going to miss a whole year. It's like, okay, what am I doing? I'm creating work for myself. So I need a break. And I had to back off of that because, again, as you mentioned, Gwen, there's the core group. And I don't have to tell them anything. They will call me. When is book club? What's the name of that book again? So, that's where I'm at. The core group, they're going to continue.
Okay,
And
did
that's
you
what you
meet
have
every
to get
month?
on, because if you start running after the people who aren't showing dedication, you're going to continue to run after them because you
Yes,
just empowered them to keep doing what they're doing.
yes. Again, and we started off saying, start things off the way that they're going to be. And I just cannot keep doing that. I can't. I
So
have
did
a
you
lot
all
of,
meet every month, Dondi?
we started out once a month, and now we're at once every 6 to 8 weeks because people are busy and have other things to do. And then honestly, the 6 to 8 weeks works better for me because I accepted a cohort position with a year-long publishing program. And I need my extra time now to get my writing done and make sure I am getting writing done. So,
So that's a good segue to you as a writer. And you had mentioned that there are other writers in your book club, but you have your latest book is called Lily's Bloom Lies Fester.
yes, ma'am, that is the name of it. I can show you the cover.
Yeah, show us the cover and tell us give us okay, you need to put it closer to you, or yeah, there it is right
Close to you like this.
there. Right there.
There we go.
Right
There we
there.
go.
Okay. So what is the book? What genre is it and what is it about?
Okay, this book is contemporary, and I'm going to say contemporary because it's about Black women, chick lit. And it's because it's about four sisters, and the book itself is about the dynamic of family secrets and how one secret within the same family destroys because every individual has their own version of the truth of that event, and every individual is operating in their own truth. And because of that, all families are dysfunctional, because all families have some form of a family secret. Some of them are just more heinous, others are just kind of innocent, but in the end, they can destroy, and they can destroy a person's perception of who they are or what they know about themselves. So that's what the book is ultimately about. And it's about four sisters. And actually, one sister goes home to visit because the oldest sister is unwell. And that's when the truth of the family secret comes out.
Okay. Well,
The younger sister goes home.
that sounds intriguing. Now, is this your first
Like
book?
a lot of things.
It is. This is my first book. I to be honest, I didn't intend to write a book. I intended to write a short story. And I actually hand wrote it, or what I thought was a long form short story. I hand wrote it.
Oh, okay.
And then about a month after I finished writing it, I decided, okay, I'm going to type it out. And I started typing it. And I think about the 17th handwritten page, it dawned on me like, this is a book. The word count, this is a book. And then I was sitting there saying to myself, you have wrote a book. Like, how amazing is this? You have wrote a book. And then after I typed it out and kind of did a rough edit, I asked a friend of mine who used to be an editor with Essence Magazine to read it, not to edit it, just to read it. Like, tell me, is this really good? And so she read it and she called me up and said, what are you going to do with that? And then I said, what do you mean? She was like, no, really, what are you going to do with it? And then I said, I don't know. She was like, think about adding a little bit more to it. And then do some open reading, see what kind of feel you get from other people. And I started doing that, and the reaction I was getting was so affirming. I was like, oh my God, I wrote a book, and then I started. Like, I have wrote a
I'm
book.
loving. I'm just loving the enthusiasm behind what you're saying. That, I mean, I think after a while, when we've been in the industry for a while, we think, sometimes we can get a little bit
Jaded.
on ourselves. Yeah, we like, okay, yeah, I wrote a book. Y'all need to buy it. But you had the most pure reaction. Oh my God, I wrote a book. And I think that sometimes, I think that's the attitude a lot of us need to have, that we're doing something that a lot of people don't have the nerve to do, and you did it. And
that's the thing.
Yeah, and
Is that it was
people
like suddenly it's like, okay, why did I not think I could do this? And then I realized, like, okay, it's how they teach us to write in school. They teach us to write using another person's experience. So if you don't experience that, you automatically think that you're wrong, that you don't know what you're doing. And then I started saying, wait a minute, hold up. This is all a game. Like, all of this is a game. Just the publishing, everything. We could do a lot of things if we just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. And after that, after I did a few readings and then a few other edits, I paid someone to do an edit. And then I did another, I think 2 more rewrites. And then I started toying with submitting it. And I submitted it, I think, to 2 different small presses. And one of them was saying, well, you should add more to it, which I didn't agree with, because I thought that's just adding, like, word count. It's not adding to the story. And then the other one was saying,
like that too, where it's an add to the word count, but it doesn't add to the story. Some books
and then the other one was saying it's a very good story, but it's just very it doesn't appeal to a wide enough audience. And so then I started doing my research, and I'm like, hold up, there's 34 million Black people in the United States. Like, they don't have an audience. Like, I can get out there and find them. And then after that, I met a guy, Victor McLaughlin, who is an author.
Yeah.
And Victor said something like, I think he's just blatantly said, you know what, the advantage to self-publishing is you're going to learn everything you need to know. So he's like, even if you get a contract with a major publisher, you don't know what you don't know. And then that just like clicked, like, okay, he's right. And then when I started doing the research, and I'm like, oh my God, this is too easy. Like, they have literally made us think that this is rocket freaking science, and it isn't. And once I figured it out, that's when I started telling other people, like, hey, you have a voice, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And some people will listen and other people won't. And the people that will listen, it's just, you can see, it's interesting how it's like with me, a natural progression. You go from journaling to writing a poem to writing a story to writing a book.
Into the crack, or we slip into the trap, I should say, of feeling like we have to run after the people who aren't listening, and we neglect the people who are. So concentrate on the people who are listening, and eventually the people who are not listening are going to wonder what's going on over here. Maybe I should listen and see what's going on. And then that's how you get them.
Yes.
Well, Dondi, we're at the end of our time. We actually passed our time.
Oh, we're way at the end of our time. I'm glad you said something.
I'm sorry, ladies. I'm going to send y'all my book. I'm going to send y'all the book in e-version. Okay. I don't have your email, Dr. Rhonda, so I'm going to send Miss Gwen a copy, and Gwen, you send Rhonda a copy.
We'll take care of it. And Dondi, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And also thank you and your club for being the first book club to read my new book. I appreciate
And
it.
thank you for coming to our meeting. That was so fun. We had a great time. Brandy was so tickled. She was so tickled.
It was great. So thank you
Thank you,
again
ladies.
and have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, we got enthralled in our conversation.
I know, right? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, we never go this far over.
So we're gonna do the book. Okay, here's the question for the book as we bring on our final guest. And the trivia for this book is Eric S. Gray is the author, and it's called Gun. The book's main character, Omar Richards, has a feared adversary. What is the adversary's name? So answer that question. What is the adversary's name in this book? And you win your copy of it. So, and you can put in the comments. Now, our next guest is with one of the friends of the show, She Publishing LLC, which is by the incomparable Shanitha Burton. She's the mastermind behind She Publishing. And now I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Antonius?
No, ma'am. It's Antonius.
Antonius. Okay. I was wrong. You know, Spartacus, the movie Spartacus has Antonius in it.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
So you know about Spartacus. So
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So now, is that a family name?
It's not. I'm really not sure the origin of the name. It was my father's middle name. That's where I got it from.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it is a family name.
Well,
If it's
you know
your
what? I
father's
guess at that
middle
point it
name,
is. Exactly. Exactly.
So, Antonius, you have a book called Finch, I guess it's Finch Files, and your book is through She Publishing LLC. And how did you meet? How did you get connected with She Publishing?
The way that I was connected with She Publishing is a high school classmate of mine actually wrote a book, and I saw her posting her book, and I asked her like, well, "Wow, who was your publisher?" Because I was interested in writing one, and she gave me a publisher's information. And when I contacted, the lady from She Publishing, she was very professional, and she made the book publishing process just a seamless transition. She was very professional, very easy to work with.
Well, Shanitha is personal friend now and a friend of the show. And she comes to the National Black Book Festival every year with her group. So it may be that we may see you this year in October. It just depends on, I don't know who and how many people she's bringing this year, but she really and I don't even remember how we even got connected with you. You know, when you've had 600 guests and then the thousands I know just from being in this business so long, I
Okay.
can't remember how I meet certain people.
I met Shanitha through, I don't know if I met her through the show or if I met her through the festival, but she's family right now.
Yeah, she's family.
Yeah.
She brought a group out to the Black History Month Literary Weekend last year, and this year she's bringing another group out, and she's coming as a sponsor. So that even though I'm not an author under her label, I feel like I'm part of the family because we connected so well. So I will tell you that Antonius, you have a great publisher.
Yeah, you
Oh,
do.
thank you.
You really do. So tell us about now where are you walking while you're on the show?
No,
Another room.
no. What I did was I turned some lights on. It was too dark, so I just turned some lights
okay.
on.
I'm like, okay, what is he doing? I hope he's not going in the bathroom.
Oh no.
So anyway, my green screen is acting up tonight. So tell us about Finch Files and what it's about.
Well, Finch Files is a collection of short stories. When I used to have a blog site. On the blog site, I used to write about different things that was happening in the community. but I will add a little twist to it so that way identities could be sealed. And I just started using my blog site as a way to express myself when I was dealing with different things. It's like you have to have an outlet, and writing is mine. And after that, everyone was reading my blog, and they was like, "You need to write a book, make it into a book." So I reached out to Shanitha, and the rest was history. But one thing about the Finch Files is something in there for everyone from teenagers on up. Something that people could relate to.
Okay. So give us an example of one of the short stories in the book as far as the storyline.
Okay. Well, one of the storylines I wrote, it was called The Difference in Death. Okay. You know, it's the difference in death. And what I mean by that is when someone is sick, is suffering from a terminal illness or something like that, you can see them progressing towards that. But when someone loses their life suddenly, it's more unexpected. And the way that it impacts you is different. If someone loses their life due to sickness and you see them progressing over time, to when someone loses their life to a car accident or violently, it's very unexpected. So that impact can be different. You know, I know because I lost someone on both rims. Another short story was about a lady who I fell in love with, and I did wrong, and she ended up leaving. And I was so heartbroken because I was like, wow, this was the one, and she got away, you know? So I had to write a book. I actually wrote the story to impress her, like, man, look. And
did it work?
It did.
Okay, well. But that's a common story, you know, and it can be on either side. I'm gonna say normally it's the guy who messes up, but it could be the woman.
Okay, I'll take that.
But that's a common story, and it's so human, and it's the same story, but the details are not always the same.
The details are not. It's another story called snitching, and that's a plague in the Black community. You know, I believe that's why violence continues to increase because of the snitching policy. You know, whereas I wrote down the difference. I have a story called it's about the difference in snitching and identifying what snitching is. You know, whereas if you are a willing participant in a crime and you're caught and you're telling the person that you did the crime with, that's snitching. But if you are a regular civilian like you and I, and something happened and you choose to say something, then that's different. We're not held to the same standards as people that's in a lifestyle. Right. So I wrote that for the youth to understand, you know, you don't have, just because you're young, don't mean that you have to follow a policy if you're not part of that lifestyle.
Yeah. One of the problems with the criminal justice system in terms of that being a witness is they make it almost like the witness is the criminal, or, you know, the witness is in danger. Yeah. And who wants to put themselves in that position? You know, it's very difficult. That's, you know, your family could be at risk. It's not just you.
It is. It is.
And while they don't, they have that two-way glass when you have the person in the lineup, but then you have to testify in court if there's a trial.
Yeah, so you know that deters a lot of cooperation, and in return, it doesn't have the violence in our urban areas. You know, it actually shields. It's more like the person that's speaking, trying to assist, is almost like their own child would being a criminal, and the person who did wrong, it's like they become the victim. So
yeah, the criminal has the upper hand in this system.
Yeah, so you know, it all depends on the life that you lead. You know, so I wrote.
So are you in law enforcement? What's your background?
No,
what do you what are your interests and what got you interested in writing? Like what led you down this path of blogging and sharing your bearing your soul online?
Okay. I mean,
Rhonda, you have your mute. Your mute is on.
Sorry about that. I was just saying, so as you're talking, have you connected with Royce, who's also a part of She Publishing?
I actually, I recently met Royce. He was at the convention. I met him there.
Yeah, the one in Chicago.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I just feel like, you two have similar viewpoints, and it would be interesting to see you guys have a conversation. Just be
Okay.
listening and be a fly on the wall.
But you asked what got me into writing.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I had two passions. It was writing and playing basketball. So playing basketball, it actually got me through college. I played college basketball,
Okay.
but
Where'd you
writing,
go to college?
I played at a junior college. I played at a junior college called Parkland in Champaign, Illinois. And I played at a NAIA school called Kendall College.
Okay.
After my associates. But it was writing was more like in my grandparents' household where I grew up at. My grandmother, she ran a tight ship. Let's just say that. My grandfather was at work during the day. And my grandmother, it was like no noise after 6 o'clock. Get your pajamas on. You're going to choir rehearsal tonight. So I just used to, just write as a way to. For one, it was quiet, so no one bothered me. I didn't bother her, and it was just a way of me, just like, wow, you can say what you're feeling, and it was like once you write something, and you put it on paper, whatever you're going through, happy or sad. If you're happy, it increases it, and if you're sad, it gets it like off your chest. So just one of my
So that was what
relievers.
interested you in writing, but why did you decide to write about what you write about?
Actually, I have so many different stories that's written, and I actually have 2 books that I'm working on now that I'm just about finished. So with that, it was just more so of seeing the different things that was going on in my community, looking at politics, women. You just write about the things that you see, the things that you grew up in. But it doesn't have to always be negative. So I wrote something for everyone. I consider myself to be a very diverse person.
Your story about death was interesting. The aspect of it that you mentioned, because the people closest to me, my mother, my father, and my brother, they all died from illness. But it was still, even though a person may be ill, when they pass, it can still be shocking.
Yeah.
Unless they're like, on life support or something like that. Like my mother took a nap and didn't wake up. She had been sick, but not, I mean, it was totally unexpected. It was
Right.
not, at that time, so that was shocking. And my dad had COVID, and so they did tell us, he was transitioning. So you had a chance to wrap your
You were able to expect that because you knew it was coming. I'm going to tell you, my worst fear is I've not lost either of my parents, and I've not lost my sister. So that's one of my biggest fears.
It changes your world. It's a different world.
I mean, but see the angle that I came from with that. My grandfather, he succumbed to cancer. Okay. But he was in the hospital, and I knew that it wasn't a cure for cancer. So you knew inevitably you pray for a miracle, but inevitably you knew that was coming. Okay. But growing up in the Inglewood community in Chicago. I've had a cousin who I expected to talk to that night that was murdered. I had friends who I may have talked to earlier that day or seen the day before, and they end up being murdered. So what I'm saying is, I knew my grandfather was sick, so yes, when he died, it definitely hurt me. Okay, but I was able to mentally
Prepare
prepare
yourself.
myself a little bit for it. You never can prepare yourself fully, but
Right.
you knew it was coming, and at that point, it's when you make a decision. Like, well, man, if he's going to be alive and be in pain, I don't want him. Then I don't want him to suffer on the strength of me, you know.
Mm.
But when you are when you have loved ones who is 100% healthy and you got plans with,
Right.
and their life is taken suddenly, that's a different type of pain. That's something different. That's unexpected. That's why it's called difference in death.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and it's so true what you said. My first husband um had a brother that got killed by a drunk driver on Thanksgiving Day, and so that was so I understand it was shocking. It was just devastating, because he talked to him earlier in the day, and then that later that night his mother called and said he was gone, and he was 27, or he was, he wasn't 30. So it was
Right,
devastating.
right. It was unexpected. You know.
Mm-hmm. Unexpected.
I also wrote another story called "Related, Not Family," and
Okay.
that is more so how we can't pick our family, the family that we're born into. Okay,
Right.
but we can, blood makes you related, but in my book, loyalty makes you family. So it's yeah, we're related because I'm born into this family, but the people over here, they're more loyal to me and they treat me more like family. So yeah, we're related, but this is my family here. So it's just I like to think outside the box, so
Well, you really are kind of inside the box in terms of talking about everyday life,
yeah,
but you really are kind of dissecting it.
yeah, I'm just breaking it down a little bit more, just being a little bit more tedious with it. That's
Mm-hmm.
all.
I
What are
mean,
your goals with your books?
Excuse me.
What are your goals with your books?
My goals with my books is really just to break down, to enlighten some people, okay, with things that's going on in the communities, and to allow some of the younger guys from my community, you know, just to say, hey, we have an author from here, to show a way that you can be more than just an athlete, or a hustler, or a drug dealer, or
Yes.
something like that. I'm actually working on 2 new books right now that's coming out. I'm coming out with my children. I have a children's book coming out.
okay.
It's called The Adventures of Avery and Daddy. We're
And both
like,
under She Publishing?
yes, I'm almost finished. Everything I do with Beyond the She Publishing, she made it so seamlessly. So I'm going to stay with that. Plus I have a daughter, and I believe in empowering the Black woman because I want my daughter to be empowered. So I want her to
How
see
old
her
is your
dad.
daughter?
She's 6.
Oh, okay. So she's just getting started.
She's just getting started. So it's important to me that she see, everything that a man can accomplish, a lady can accomplish as well. So I'm doing more things with women, and I'm involving my daughter in it. So that's why we it's going to have 18 short stories in it, and we have 14 completed so far. So
The children's book.
yes,
So that's more for young adults or like teens.
it's more like kids. She's 6, so see, like this book here is more for like teenagers on up. I didn't have anything for children. And
Okay.
another author under the She Publishing Network, he actually wrote a children's book, and I thought it was real cool. And when my daughter's starting to read, she's always talking about different things, and we're doing so much with each other. So we just document it. I'm like, wait a minute, let me listen to a book so she can she can be an author, you know? So just trying to push new boundaries with my daughter, that's all.
Well, it's important to involve children in things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And believe
I've
me,
met so many authors who have encouraged their children to write. I mean, my own daughter has written her book, and she's considering writing more, but she's more of an actress than a writer. But that's
Okay.
still part of the art, so I'm still happy about it.
Right. Right. You know, I think I have two older sons. I believe my oldest son, he he's into his career now, but he's also a rapper, you know. So I told him, like, you're a writer. You're a writer because if you rap,
lyrics, song lyrics.
you're writing. All you're doing is just doing it with a melodic beat.
Mhm.
Right.
My youngest son, he's a freshman at the University of Illinois. Uh, both his parents have written books, you know, so I can see that in his future as well, you know.
Well, that's great. So what are your goals for like what do you want to do with your books? And who is your main audience for your books? Like not who's actually, do you know who actually is like buying your books? Like when you go out and you meet the public with your books, who expresses the most interest? Like what kind of, is it people of a certain age? Is it, you know?
That's just it. My book, it reaches a wide range. And the reason I say that is because, you know, of course it was promoted heavily in my community, okay? But I also promoted in my professional life as well. You know,
Okay.
so once again I have people from different genres, you know, that's supporting. So that's why I had to sit down and think, like, man, I got this market cornered, I got that market cornered, I don't have the children's market cornered. So that's why I stepped in with my daughter and we were writing this book. And I'm also coming out with a second book this year called The Emasculation of Marriage.
Mm, that's a strong title.
Rodney, you had a visceral response to that. You know, I saw it and it intrigued me. I underlined it. I underlined the emasculation word of marriage.
Yes, ma'am.
So just give us like a teaspoon of what that's about.
It's about it's about how a man almost becomes eviscerated, okay, or almost emasculated by his spouse and her family.
Okay, is it fiction or nonfiction?
A
Is
little bit
it
of
a
both.
novel or is it like a how-to
No, it's a novel.
or self-help?
It's a
It's a
novel.
novel. Okay.
It's a novel. It's
Okay.
it's nonfiction because it's not 100% fiction,
Okay.
Okay.
but there are some fictional points, some fictional stories, you know, some fictional uh, terms in the book, some fictional things that actually happen in the book.
So this isn't short stories. This is one story.
Yeah, this is one story.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
This one is one
Oh,
story. This would be my first novel. You know,
well,
I've been writing that one for 3 years. Sometimes you have to write and you have to be in a certain mind frame to write that type.
oh, I know. I know. Both of my novels took 5 years to write. Each one took 5 years. The next one I can't take 5 years because I needed to come out quicker. But sometimes that's what it takes. It has to percolate. You know, you have to
It,
be, moved and motivated. You have the spirit has to lead and all that stuff. So, it just depends. So, Antonius, we're at the end of our time, but we do show your book cover again of the Finch Files. So people can, when they go online to look it up, they know what the cover looks like. So they make sure that they're getting the correct book.
I
And
like that.
I like to use your street sign as
Yeah.
your art. So thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and congratulations on
Thank you
your
for
book.
having me. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to watching more of your shows. Okay,
All right, don't be a
Okay.
stranger.
I won't.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and feel free to comment when you watch, because we do read the comments, and sometimes we announce them,
I
it
will.
depending on the time, how much
I
time.
will.
Okay, have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
You as well. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, well, for those of you all who didn't see the top of the show tonight, we celebrated our 600th guest as the first guest on tonight's show. And this is a wrap on the show for January 23rd. I do want to see who won the book. I thought it was
I
was
didn't
it
even get the
Lydia?
question out, and he had already gotten the response.
Curtis won? Okay, Curtis Stevenson. Okay. Well, Curtis, you win a lot of books. So, great. That's great. So anyway, we are out for tonight. We are going to have a great show next week, another great lineup for you. And for those of you all who want to look at our new t-shirt line, go to cushcity.com. And for those who want to view, who haven't viewed some of the photos from last year's National Black Book Festival, go to our Facebook page that you're on now watching the show, or our Instagram page, and we have about 400 photos on there. So we are out, and we're going to say good night. I will see you next week on Tuesday night.
Night.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.